Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Big emphasis on the welcome back, man. What has it been? 15 months? 15 months since we uploaded a podcast episode on this channel. Welcome back, y'all. Missed y'all. Missed y'all very much. As you can see, I'm joined with Elisha Segars from Ball Oasis. We are going to be talking about a ton happened today. The past week, past 2 weeks, wherever you set the bar, wherever you set the line, a ton has happened in the college basketball world. I know we're a football podcast here over at H&H, but I don't know, man. March Madness season is a universal time in the United States, so we got to celebrate it, man. Yeah, big emphasis on the welcome back. How's it going, Elijah? Big, really fast intro, but how's it going? Let's settle down.
We got the energy going, man. I love it. I'm glad to be here. This is one of my favorite times of the year. As you know, and as most of your viewers probably know, we're on the basketball side talking mostly NBA, but I'm just as dug into college basketball. So this time of year is one of my favorites. I'm so excited for March Madness, man.
Certified ball knowers in the room at the moment. Before we start, though, I do have, I do have a couple things to say. Obviously, big Tiger fan over here. We played UAB today in the American Championship, and I just want to say, good game to UAB. They really played, a hard-fought game. Psych! You think I was going to give credit to UAB, bro? Absolutely not. They was talking mess all 3 games we played, bro. 0-3 against us. 0-3. Yaxel Lindenberg, absolutely terrible is what I like to call him. Absolutely awful. 0-3. Dane Danger had 20 piece all 3 games against y'all. PJ Haggerty 20 piece all 3 games. You let Dane Danger play point guard against y'all today, bro. Tyrese Hunter out. Guess who plays point guard for us? Dane Danger, our 6'9" fat boy. Bro, no sympathy for y'all over at UAB, the University of Always But. Y'all are awful. Go cry. Anyway. Anyway, dude, I've been seeing all over Twitter these, literally Yaxel himself was talking mess before the game the other day. Bro, y'all can see us in Memphis. Y'all can see us in Fort Worth. Y'all can even see us in Birmingham. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We whooped y'all all 3 games, bro. Out of here. See y'all next year. Oh, wait. Yaxel, you graduated. See ya.
Get on that LinkedIn, buddy.
Time to speak Chinese, buddy. Absolutely time. You won't even be on the Japanese roster next year, bro. Out of here. 5 for 15 today? You were the preseason player of the year. 5 for 15?
No, I was fully expecting UAB to come out and win that game today after Tyrese Hunter was going to be out. They had to win it to get in. First half, they got the lead going into halftime, and then Tigers took over, man.
That boy Yaxel is all that yapping. What does Musa say? Dane Danger and Baraka Okoji. Baraka Okoji. This man was not ranked out of high school. Are you kidding me? Clamped. He shot over. Yaxel shot over on Okoji today.
Not my player of the year.
Had to let it out. You know what I mean? Had to let it out. PJ is an absolute insane person, scoring 42 against Wichita.
He a first-teamer, All-American?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Conference player of the year, conference first team, carries Memphis to the – bro, Dane Danger and PJ Haggerty, hang them in the rafters, bro. Already. Hang them in the rafters. Them boys are cooking. Absolutely cooking. And we just retired Grindfather's jersey the other night.
Oni.
Memphis is up. Anyway, had to get it out of my chest. I'm not letting University of Always But. University of Always Bad. Absolutely but. Whatever you want to say. Football, basketball, name the sport. We own you. The Bones have never left Memphis, ever.
They're running out of bones at this point. They're running out of bones in their body.
The Bones are staying in Memphis. All right, let's move on to the topic of discussion. March Madness. The bracket was revealed today as we're recording this. To be honest, first thoughts, terrible bracket. First off, absolutely horrible. UNC should not be a tournament team. Absolutely not. You have one win combined. I think they have a combined 2 wins against quad 1 and 2 teams.
1-12, 1.
What are we doing, bro? And then they say, yeah, the AD of UNC is not in the room for that. Are you kidding me?
I'm not buying it.
We have Indiana, absolutely should have been over UNC. West Virginia, literally every bracket predictor on Lenardi on ESPN, like I forget the guy's name for CBS, Fox, everybody had West Virginia in. Yeah. They were 9. They were 9 seeds across everybody. And then they put UNC in, bro. Are you kidding me? Horrible. Absolutely horrible.
It's funny because Lenardi at halftime of the Memphis UAB game came in and said there's no shot UNC should be in the bracket. He said if there was a team who might get slighted, it would be Boise State. And, of course, they ended up not making it. But UNC was actually in the bracket, which is kind of insane.
I would take all 7 of the teams that were in the first 4, the last 4 in and the first 4 out. I would take all 7 of those teams over UNC. All 7.
I guess the one thing that people can say to defend them being in, and it doesn't hold much weight when you get down to real analysis, is that they were playing better basketball to close the season. I think they won like 7 of their last 8 or 8 of their last 9.
I think they were on a 7-game win streak before they lost to Duke in the ACC tournament.
Yeah, but you're lower tier ACC schools, like, no, that doesn't do that.
In my opinion, they needed to win the ACC tournament to be able to get into the field, and you get in over the Mountain West runner-up in Boise State, who only has 10 losses, and Mountain West they're a 4-bid league.
Yeah,
that they have the same amount of bids as the ACC. The Mountain West was a premier conference in college basketball this year, and they slighted Boise State. They put in San Diego State, but they slighted Boise State for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I thought they deserved to be in. Not over West Virginia or Indiana, but certainly more than North Carolina.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I agree.
And Louisville was an 8. That's ridiculous. The ACC runner-up, the 2 seed, a team that was really good throughout the entire season. They beat Clemson. They beat all of these top teams in the ACC throughout the year. And they're an 8.
And Illinois is a 6. Illinois is a 6 and Louisville.
Illinois is a 6. Michigan's a 5 and Wisconsin's a 3 after Michigan beat Wisconsin today to win the Big Ten.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was shocking to me.
Overall, one of the worst brackets that I've ever seen. As far as like some of these you just can't justify. Like North Carolina, you can't tell me anything to make me think that North Carolina deserves to be a tournament team. Not a single thing other than the fact that it's North Carolina and they're a blue blood. That's the only reason they're in.
But you know what's going to happen, right? They're going to come out. They're going to win the play-in game. They're going to beat Ole Miss in the first round, and then everybody's going to say, it was justified. It was justified. We should be in.
They deserve to be in.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Moving on, just talking about the actual bracket. I did have some questions that I lobbed over to Elijah. These talking points that we could go over before we dive into the actual bracket. Questions that we'll both answer. Just some nuggets of thought before we get into the actual bracket. First of all, I think we both have the same exact mindset when it comes to this question. Who is your best overall team in the field this year? Who do you think is the favorite? Who should be the favorite to come out and win on April 10th or 7th, I believe?
Yeah. I lobbed you my answer yesterday, and it stands. Not just because they won the SEC championship today, but I think Florida is the most complete team in the country. They have 3 amazing guards with Walter Clayton, Will Richard, and Elijah Martin They're bigs. They have probably the best big rotation in the country, where they can sub 2 bigs out for another 2 bigs. They can all shoot the ball except for Chinyelu, and they've got good wings as well. They've got good guys that can play defense. They are a very efficient offensive team. They don't turn the ball over. They shoot the ball well. They are really just the most complete team in the country to me. And I think if there was one other team that you could say a lot of those same things about, it would be Duke. The word that I've used for Duke all year has been disciplined. I think Duke is the most disciplined team in the country, where they're not turning the ball over much. They play to their system. Their guys, even when they're not making their threes, they can beat you. But when they are, they're almost unbeatable. Like we saw last night, even without Cooper Flagg against Louisville, Tyrese Proctor makes 7 threes, Sion James. And
they really played perfect without Cooper Flagg.
Was a great second option. Kaman Malawach is blocking shots. They've got all the pieces too. I know, Auburn is the number 1 overall seed technically.
I have no idea how.
Yeah, they lost.
No idea how.
They're still
that's another thing. Auburn, like, it seems like they were stamped for 2 weeks. Like nothing was going to change that. And they put Florida as the 4th overall team in the field. I don't know, man. Florida really reminds me of UConn last year. They play perfect basketball. They really do. Them and Duke. When you watch them play, it just looks like a well-oiled machine. They know exactly what they're doing. The chemistry between those 5 guys on the floor just seems to be perfect. They don't seem like they can make a mistake. The best offensive rebounding team in the entire country. They don't take a possession off. Walter Clayton Jr., I'm not sure. Besides Flagg and Broom, I don't think there's a player I would take over Walter Clayton Jr. right now. It's
tough.
An absolute madman. Elijah Martin, I'm very familiar with as a Memphis fan. He's very, very good. Will Richard is also, like, they just have just a ton of guys. They have 9 deep that Todd Golden is just confident in. They can go to anybody on the bench and be fine. Most teams, like, maybe not with these top teams. Most teams, they go to their bench, and it's like, all right, maybe we can make a run on these guys, bro. No time off when Florida makes substitutions, man. Everybody on their team can shoot. Everybody on their team is well disciplined. Like, I just don't think, you just can't convince me otherwise that Florida is the best overall team in the field this year. They were undefeated going into SEC play. They played some weird games, against Tennessee, against Alabama. Like, they just had some weird games that they lost. But it was the SEC this year, man. They put 14 of the 16 teams in their conference into the tournament. Just the greatest season out of a single conference ever. And Florida,
Auburn and Alabama. They beat Tennessee 1 out of 2 times, so they've toppled the top teams in the conference.
Yeah, and like you say, like, oh, the SEC put 14 teams in, like, oh, the SEC greatest conference of all time this year in 2024, 2025. Florida won that conference.
Pretty easily.
Everybody on the way to doing so. Whooped everybody, not just like run-of-the-mill teams. Missouri, Alabama and Tennessee. They killed Alabama yesterday, murdered them. Besides that little run that Tennessee made today, Florida dominated that game.
Yeah.
I don't really think it's going to be hard for me to take anybody against Florida right now.
Me too, especially not knowing the status of Cooper Flagg and when we can expect him back. I think Florida is the best bet to run through almost everybody. The word that I use with Auburn, I know, Auburn's been number 1 for most of the year, and they're a really, really great team. But when they're dominant, they're dominant. But when they're not dominant, when they're not playing to their strengths, then the weaknesses are glaring. And you can't say the same thing about Florida. Florida has no holes. Florida doesn't.
They don't do anything bad. Like, it's kind of crazy when you watch them. There's no like, oh yeah, we can expose that. Like, from sitting on the couch, like, oh yeah, we can actually, if my team plays them, we can take care of that. They don't have any weaknesses, bro. It's probably because how many white guys they got playing for them. But it's just
Well, when a team can match the physicality of Auburn, they really give them problems. I remember that Texas A&M game, one of the last games of the regular season. Texas A&M did that, and even though Texas A&M didn't have the best offensive night, they ran that game for almost the entire night.
Yeah, Auburn is like they're kind of the antithesis of what Florida is. They're both very physical. They both rebound the ball well, but they don't have the depth. I don't think anybody has the depth that Florida does, but they don't have the depth that Florida does. If their top guys aren't playing well, Auburn's probably going to lose. Yeah. That's just what if Denver Jones is not on, if I forget their freshman's name, Pettiford, he was horrible yesterday against Tennessee, absolutely terrible. I think he's their X factor. If Auburn's going to go far, I think Tahad Pettiford has to have an insane tournament. Obviously, you look at the player of the year candidate in Janai Broome, you're like, well, he has to play well too. But yeah, I think Tahad Pettiford is where, an underrated part of that Auburn is successful.
Yeah. I don't know. I trust Chaney Johnson, who shot almost 40% from three in the regular season. I don't trust that come tournament time. Baker Mazara made some crazy shots this year.
Biggest crash out I've ever seen since Tyler Hansborough. That guy fights everybody.
Yeah.
And they need him. He's a good player, and he's so unreliable when it comes to keeping his composure. If you can get Baker Nazaro hot, as far as his attitude, I don't know. Things would look towards your direction when it comes to Auburn.
Yeah, and I think that they're a team more than anyone else who benefited from playing at home this year. I think they really benefited from their home crowd a lot.
Yeah, it was really hard to get wins in the jungle, but Auburn is still a really, really good team. They obviously have been skidding. There's more good to say than bad towards Auburn. Auburn's obviously really good. I still don't think they should have been the number one overall seed. I would have given it to Duke or Florida over them. But 16-2 against Quad 1.
Still amazing. That's amazing.
16 wins against Quad 1 this year, bro. You really can't dispute that. So I understand why they're the number one overall seed. I personally wouldn't have done it, but I think Auburn has some holes that can be exploited come when they get to the Sweet 16 Elite 8 when it comes to really, really playing these really good teams. I think Auburn is, not a shoe-in, if that makes sense. They're the morale police when when they're losing, you can tell. When they're losing, their body language is terrible, especially Janai Broome. He is not a very he's not a very good loser, if that makes sense. Which is it's cool for some guys when but his sportsmanship is terrible when they're losing. It's just awful. Yeah. But you can tell when they're losing, and if you don't look at the scoreboard and in an Auburn game and Auburn's losing, you can tell.
Yeah. Of their head coach, do you think that is?
Man, Bruce Pearl is he doesn't have an emotion that doesn't come out. Whatever emotion he's feeling, you can tell. He's showing it. Same with Ron Hunter for Tulane. That man has never stayed still for longer than 2 seconds in his entire life. But let's move on to the most underrated. I think that was my second question. The most underrated team in the field that you feel this year. I kind of have a tie. It could kind of change based on the way the way they seeded. But I kind of have a 1A, 1B situation. But you go ahead. You talk about your most underrated team in the field.
Yeah, I got to go with Gonzaga right here. For Gonzaga to be an 8 seed, to have finished the season the way that they did. Did you watch that West Coast Conference championship game or see what happened?
No.
They shot a combined, Gonzaga and St. Mary's shot a combined 1 for 31 from three. It was the worst. It was the worst combined 3-point shooting game in 25 years. And that really just took away from Gonzaga's strength against St. Mary's, which you would have thought St. Mary's would have run away with that game. Gonzaga out-physicaled them. They forced turnovers. They made their free throws. And they really had to grit out a tough win over a team that had beaten them twice already this season. Mm-hmm. So seeing that and seeing the way they played down the stretch they've got into their groove. I think that they've got one of the best 3-guard tandems in the country with Ryan Nimhard, Caleb Battle, and Nolan Hickman. They've got good interior presence with Graham Ike. They've got some wings who can defend, got some wings who can knock down some shots. And for them to be an 8 seed and to be in the region with Houston, that second-round matchup, but that potential second-round matchup with Gonzaga and Houston, I think really bodes well for Gonzaga, especially if they can force Houston into tough shots on the offensive end, because that's the name of the game for Houston. We know they're going to defend. We know they're going to play, spirited basketball on the defensive end. But if they're not making their shots, it can spell doomsday for them. We've seen that in the tournament, the last couple of years. But I really like this Gonzaga team. They rebound the ball well. And when they're clicking offensively, they play more like a 2-3 seed than they do an 8 seed. So
yeah,
they've had some really tough games this year. But I really like what they look like right now to close the season. I thought that they would get higher than an 8, so to see them being an 8-9 game kind of shocked me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm rolling with Gonzaga as my team that is underrated right now going into.
Yeah, I don't hate it. They got a Houston got a tough draw with getting Gonzaga as the 8 seed. Yeah, Houston is a team, one of the 1 seeds that we didn't talk about. Houston is a team that if you speed them up and get them out of their pace, the place that they want to play, which is extremely, extremely slow, I think you can seek success in that. And Gonzaga and Mark Few have been playing very, very fast. They score like 90 points a game every year that Mark Few has been there, it feels like. This year is no different. And I think Gonzaga is one of those teams that can exploit the slow pace that Houston wants to play.
Yeah. By the way, Jawan Roberts, their center and their best player, really, he missed the Big 12 championship game yesterday with a foot injury as well. They don't know his status for next week yet either, so that's something to keep an eye out for.
Really, really big piece for them. Someone I'm also familiar with as a Memphis fan. Just an absolute dog down low, and they really need him if they want to go far in March. I told you it was a two-way tie, kind of 1A, 1B. Louisville, I mentioned earlier, they've really, really shafted Louisville as an 8 seed, man. The ACC runner-ups this year gave a good fight to Duke, but Duke obviously way, way better than them. Pat Kelsey has done an amazing job turning around this program. And Louisville a couple years ago won like 2 games, I think, overall in the entire season.
They looked like Miami looked like this year. Like
Miami, bottom of the barrel, just looked like absolute horrific. And then Pat Kelsey comes in, absolutely turns this team around. Chucky Hepburn is an insane person on their team, just absolutely just mauls everybody on defense, bro. He's insane. First team, I think he was defensive first team in the country, just as he should have been. I think Louisville can go pretty far. Like we said about Auburn, Auburn has some weaknesses. I think Louisville can, if they can get past Creighton in this first round and match up with Auburn, I think Louisville has a real shot to upset Auburn in that round of 32 and go pretty far in this tournament. My 1B, speaking of going far in the tournament, is UConn. I think UConn is, people have forgot, man. Dan Hurley obviously lost to Creighton in the Big East tournament, had a little scuffle at the end there, but they still have a very, very strong and balanced roster this year, man. And Dan Hurley, he's been there before. 2-time reigning national champions is UConn. Haven't had a great season this year with 10 losses, but I do think UConn has the chops to go far in March because they've done it before. They are the standard in college basketball right now. They haven't lost their title yet. They're going to defend it this year. I'm probably not going to pick against them.
Even with Florida in the second round?
Probably against Florida. But I do think, like, we talked about how perfect Florida is in this entire, opening segment. UConn, I think, can beat them. I'm not saying they will, but I think they can. If any 8 seed is going to upset Florida, I think it's going to be UConn, the 2-time reigning national champions. Now, they've lost everybody from the past 2 national champions. Like, they barely have anybody left from those championship rosters. But, Dan Hurley's been there. He know that UConn hasn't lost a tournament game in 2 years, 3 even.
Yeah.
Like they haven't, and they've killed everybody in those last 2 championship runs. Again, totally different roster, but I think UConn has what it takes to do it. If any lower-ish seed can upset Florida, it's going to be UConn.
If you take out that little stretch in Maui in November, I think we're looking at like a 3 or 4 seed team.
Yeah, definitely a struggle year. It's brand new team. But UConn is UConn, man. Like, they're still UConn. I think they have a real chance to do big things in March.
Yeah, I could see it. Florida in that second round, though, if they were going up against any other 1 seed, I would be right on board with you. But I think Florida, like we said, is just a juggernaut. It'd be really, really tough to topple them. They'd have a game and a half.
Yeah, UConn would have to play the best game of the entire season to get rid of Florida, because Florida's playing perfect basketball. Now, last question before we move on to predicting the bracket. Your team, your unexpected lower seed team to go far and make a NC State type Final Four run like we saw last year.
Yeah. So yesterday I would have said Oklahoma, but now we see Oklahoma as a 9 seed, and I was expecting Oklahoma to be like an 11 and maybe a 10 at the highest. So I'm not going to say Oklahoma anymore, and especially since they're matched up against UConn, I don't think that bodes well for them. So I'm going to shift, and I am going to move to Arkansas. Yes, the Arkansas Razorbacks, 10 seeded. I know they play Kansas in the first round. Crazy 7-10 game. They'd play St. John's in theory if they won that game. So they'd have some tougher matchups. But I just think the talent on that roster with Coach Cal coaching, they're supposed to be getting Boogie Fland back for that first against Kansas. Yeah, haven't had him since January. So we'll see how much he plays, how he fits in. But I just really like the pieces on that Arkansas team, and I like the way they've been playing lately. They lost the heartbreaker to Ole Miss in the SEC tournament, but I really like Billy Richmond. Their bigs, Trevin Brazil and Jonas Adu, have really come alive here in March.
Adu's a monster.
Yeah. Carter Knox, knockdown shooter from the 3. They've been making their threes, and I just really like that they have another guy that they can throw in depth-wise now. And I think their X factor is DJ Wagner. DJ Wagner is a guy that for the first year and a half did not live up to his, high school pedigree, number 1 player coming out of high school. But over the past few months, he has looked very, very good. He's looked very, very calm.
He's been hooping.
Yeah, he really has. So I think he's got good momentum going into March. I think this team has good momentum going into March. I like the Razorbacks.
I don't hate it at all. Calipari, respected over here, at least on my side. Some Memphis fans hate him. This is actually really funny. My team, before the bracket came out, my team for this answer was Colorado State.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
I kind of have to change it now because I'm not picking against Memphis. But Colorado, I still kind of want to talk about them. Colorado State is. I'll talk about them when we get to the game. But Colorado State is really good. My team that I think can go far in this, I just think they're set up really well, is UC San Diego. I think they got a perfect draw in the tournament, bro. They pulled. This is literally the perfect matchup, the literal perfect matchup for them. They play Michigan. Again, they're the Big Ten champions, for a reason. They're a really good team. But the strength of this UC San Diego team is turnovers, forced, and points off of turnovers, and pace. Michigan gives up the most turnovers in the Big Ten. It's I think it's top 10 in the entire country. But Michigan is very sloppy with the basketball. And that's been the theme their entire season. They had a really big skid. I think it was late January heading into February. They had a really big skid. And UC San Diego got the perfect draw for this tournament, man. They're 12 playing the 5 seed Michigan. If they can get past Michigan, let me see who they would play.
They'd play Texas A&M, Yale.
And I think they can beat A&M too. A&M is not particularly protective of the basketball either. They won a huge 4 or 5 game slide at the end of February. Again, they play in the SEC, but I think UC San Diego can beat both Michigan and A&M. And they would draw Auburn or Louisville. Who knows, bro? Like, maybe Auburn has holes. Like we said, I think they could probably get past Auburn if, everything aligned right. I just think it's mainly like UC San Diego is good in their own right, regardless of where in the bracket that they drew. But they drew a perfect bracket, bro. They drew perfect for the way that they play. And this is the first year that they're eligible to even be in the tournament, win the Big West, and they've been really good. They play. I just love it. Like, if you watch film on this team, it's really, really fun to watch them play. They just play so fast. They play so hard. Nobody has their own ego. Like, everybody just plays for each other. It's a really, really fun basketball team to watch. You tune into that Michigan UC San Diego game. I think they can go far.
Yeah. The way that people are talking about them this year, kind of the way that people talked about McNeese last year.
I definitely talked about that. I had them beating Gonzaga. Then they got smoked.
McNeese didn't come through for us. They've got another chance this year, and I thought about putting them as my team. But UC San Diego, they're pretty complete. They're a pretty complete team, so that's a good pick.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the draw that Memphis got with Colorado State. Colorado State's so good.
I haven't looked at them at all, so you're gonna have to tell me about Colorado State. I'm gonna have to hear what.
I'll fill you in. I'll fill you in. But let's move on to the dessert of the entire episode, the actual March Madness bracket. Everybody's got one. I'm sure all of you have at least 4 by the time you're turning into this episode. March Madness, baby. Let's freaking get it.
How many do you usually fill out?
I only do like 2.
I'm only doing here. I'm doing one but for everything.
My best one was when Kansas won it a couple years ago. I think I had the Final Four like exact.
See, I had Kansas winning that year too. That was the one time I hit on the champion.
Yeah, I had Kansas. I correctly picked Kansas, Duke, Carolina, and Nova.
Wow.
In that year. I have no idea how. I don't know what possessed me to pick Carolina to go that far.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen? Are we all set?
I can see it.
Let's flip and go, chat. Let's do it. As we talked about, the first game that we're going to pick here on the H&H second ever March Madness prediction is Auburn and the winner of Alabama State and who's this? St. Francis. I knew that. I don't think we're just picking Auburn. No analysis on that. If any 1 seed is going to get upset, I think it's Auburn. That's my analysis on that game.
Yeah,
Louisville Creighton, second matchup in this region, which is the South region.
I know you're probably rolling with Louisville on this one, so I'm not strongly against that. I'm cool to roll with Louisville too. I like Terrence Edwards a lot.
I just don't trust Creighton. They just don't score.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have really
doesn't have it. They're
like Kalkbrenner's like all they got. Like that's pretty much it. But I'm gonna go with Louisville, the ACC runner-ups, as we touched on, one of my most underrated teams in this bracket. I think if Louisville's on, Louisville is on. And I would definitely pick them against Creighton. So we're gonna go with Louisville setting up an Auburn-Louisville matchup here in the round of 32. Michigan, UC San Diego. Now we already know where I want to go with this. I actually like UC San Diego in this matchup. I just think they drew the perfect team to play against, man.
Yeah. Out of the 12 fives, This is even though it's the trendy pick, I think stylistically it is the pick to go with here. So I'm with you on UC San Diego. I might pick Michigan in my own personal bracket just because the 5-12s can get dicey, and I feel like I try to pick too many 12s.
It's not as favorable to the 12s as people make it out to be. Like, I think, it really is the popular pick, but fives win more than people think that they do.
They do
statistically. And it is the trendy pick to people pick a 5-12, but I do think UC San Diego is like, I don't know, I like them better than Michigan in this matchup.
They've got substance. They've got real substance.
Yeah, like they're not just this, I don't know, they're a formidable 12 seed. They're not just, some Cinderella. I think they're a really good basketball team. So yeah. I like them over Michigan here. Texas A&M, Yale. James Jones is doing a really, really good job coaching up this Yale team. Second year in a row that they make the tournament. They upset Auburn last year. Really fitting with the conversation we've been having. They upset Auburn last year. Back in the dance this year against Texas A&M. Back-to-back SEC pools for this Yale team. I don't really know about picking Yale this time. A&M's favored by 7.5 in this matchup. Wade Taylor is an absolute dog. I think I like A&M in this matchup.
I like A&M too.
But I wouldn't be
A&M come March. I'm pretty high on them.
I wouldn't be the A&M probably had a 2 seed locked up towards the end of January, and then they had that 4 or 5 game skid.
Yeah.
Still a respectable 4 seed, but I do like A&M against Yale. But I wouldn't be surprised if Yale put up a pretty big fight. Ole Miss going to play the winner of the Tuesday matchup between San Diego State and UNC. San Diego State was in the national championship a couple years ago. People forget about that. Lamont Butler, game winner against FAU in the Final Four. But Ole Miss, I don't know. I think I like them against either team here. I don't like UNC against anybody.
See, I feel like if it is North Carolina, I like North Carolina against Ole Miss. I think stylistically, Ole Miss isn't the greatest rebounding team. I think North Carolina's guards can give them problems. If it's San Diego State, I like Ole Miss. But I'm cool to go with Ole Miss right here.
All right. Going with Ole Miss here. Iowa State, Lipscomb. Now, I think Lipscomb was a long shot to win their own conference. 25-9, not the greatest.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Cyclones. Funny enough, I usually pick against the Cyclones in a first round matchup as my big upset, but this year I'm not going to do it. It usually doesn't work out well.
Iowa State's really good this year. I really like Iowa State. Speaking of fading teams in March, we have Marquette going up against New Mexico. I don't like Shaka Smart in March. I don't like it. Cool guy, took VCU to the Final Four once upon a time. Ever since then, it's fade Shaka Smart in March.
I feel like Marquette is a little underseeded this year, but I don't like this matchup for them. I really like
only favored by 3.5 against the Lobos.
I like New Mexico in this one actually.
Yeah, Lobos. Very, very good team in the Lobos. Like we said, Mountain West 4-bid league. No slouches in the Mountain West here. Michigan State, Bryant. Bryant's an 11-loss, 15 seed. I don't really think Bryant has a chance. Yeah.
Izzo and
Michigan State.
He's not losing to Bryant.
Definitely not. Moving on to the West region. The Florida Gators take on the Norfolk State Spartans, I'm guessing. It's Chomp Gators over here. We're going with Norfolk State. If Norfolk State wins that game, I don't ever look at statistics ever again. I don't
never ever.
UConn, Oklahoma. We know where I want to go here, but you like Oklahoma, so I don't know. We kind of have to go with.
I think this is a really tough draw for Oklahoma. I love Jeremiah Fears. I like their wings, but for them to draw UConn, it just doesn't bode well. I like the Huskies over Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think UConn takes care of business in the first round. I don't think, I don't know, maybe it happens, but I don't think UConn loses this game.
Yeah.
Moving on.
All right, let's dig into it.
The 5 seed Memphis. Surprising respect from the committee that Memphis got a 5 seed. I was so hyped when I saw them get a 5. I was like, they skipped the 8. I was like, yo, where are we at? And then they put us at 5, bro. I was so hyped.
That really shocked me.
So hyped. But we play Colorado State here. As I said, the favorites against my Memphis Tigers. Colorado State is a really, really good team. You want to know who their best player is? Nick Clifford. Look at this guy. 6'6" shooting guard, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Leads them in everything. Mark my words. If you guys are ball knowers, you know Nick Clifford will be a first-round draft pick come June. This guy is an absolute stud. And they're coming into March on a 10-game win streak. They just won the Mountain West. Like we said, 4-bid league. Mountain West is no slouch. Utah State, New Mexico, Colorado State, San Diego State, Boise State could have made them a 5-bid league. That league is no slouch. Colorado State is a really, really, really good basketball team. Coming in this game on a 10-game win streak. Didn't have the craziest schedule at a conference. Their only really huge game was against Ole Miss, who they lost to. But if we don't have Tyrese Hunter, our starting point guard, I'm not the most confident. I understand we're a 5, but we got the worst 12 seed draw we probably could have had outside of UC San Diego, bro. Colorado State is one of the more complete basketball teams you're going to find lower in these seeds. Just a really, really good ball club. Nick Clifford is an absolute dog. He's like their Cooper Flag. He just leads them in everything.
Yeah. Well, I've seen his name on draft boards. I've seen his name, and I haven't gotten around to the tape yet. But I'm gonna have to dig in starting tomorrow, especially since they're playing Memphis. Gotta get hip to him.
He's really good. But Memphis, I'm not gonna pick against my Tigers. I don't care if we're playing. I don't care who we're playing. I'm not gonna pick against Memphis. I don't know. I'll be smart come, down later in the bracket. But right now in the first round against a 12 seed, I'm not picking against Memphis. We're 2.5-point underdogs to open up. I don't know. We're very turnover prone. I trust us against good teams. Our out of conference schedule, going into American Conference play, our net was like top 20 in the entire nation. We were beating good teams. We beat Clemson on the road in double overtime. We beat Ole Miss when they were ranked. We beat UConn when they were ranked second in the nation. We beat Michigan State, which was looking like an amazing, amazing win. We had a very, very good out-of-conference schedule. But going into conference play, we went 16-2 in conference. We won the regular season title. We won the conference championship. Tournament championship. We did everything we were supposed to do, but the computers hated the way that we finished games. We were playing close with everybody except UAB, and the computers were like, you're playing these bad teams, but you're only beating them by 6, 4, 2 points. Like, I could be picking at straws here, making excuses, but every team we played in this conference, it was their Super Bowl when Memphis came to town. They played their butts off, and it's like, you got to deal with it, and I get it, but we took care of business, and I'm glad we got a respectable 5 seed out of that, but I was scared they were going to make us an 8. But yeah, I'm also sad we draw Florida's side of the bracket. That being said, I'm going to pick the Tigers. I genuinely think we are a better basketball team. You compare our team to Colorado State, I like it. Dane Danger is an absolute beast. He's averaging 20 and 10 in his last 8 or 10 games. He's going off. And he basically played point guard for us today. PJ Haggerty, insane person, just can go off for 40 against anybody. I'm not loving it. Tyrese Hunter's not there. I love Barack Okogie. I love me some good feistiness on our ball club, but he's not a point guard. We saw that today. He is not a point guard, and PJ Haggerty really isn't either. He's really a two guard. But when the moment is up, in PJ Haggerty, we trust. I'm going to go with Memphis. We have to limit turnovers, and I really trust us against good teams, and I trust Penny when it comes to March. So yeah, I'm going with Memphis. I just hate that we drew Colorado State. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'll roll with the Tigers too here. 2 X factors in this game: Colby Rogers 3-point shooting, and Nicholas Jourdain just in general. I think Nicholas Jourdain.
Bro, there was a possession today where he got the rebound. PJ Haggerty was begging for it, and he just waved him off and took the worst shot I've ever seen.
Oh,
I love Jourdain. He's super long. He plays hard, but there are times where he's just an idiot. Yeah, but we also play really undisciplined. I hate some of the things that Penny coaches. Like, it's clear, like when we're closing out on a jump shooter, it's clear Penny coaches them to jump at him. Mm-hmm. And we're one of the leaders in the country every single year of fouling jump shooters. I just don't like it. And we turn over the ball like crazy. So we have to be more disciplined. We're going to play a very, very tough opponent, Colorado State. I would not be surprised if we lost, but I'm hoping we don't. I'm going to pick the Tigers.
Big M over here.
Big M's country, not picking it. It's the best season that Penny Hardaway has had as head coach. Moving on, Maryland Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon's actually a really good team. Grand Canyon's been on a heater recently.
They've got a lot of the same guys back from last year's Sweet 16 run.
Yeah, Grand Canyon is pretty good, but I really like Derek Queen, one of the best freshmen in the country. He's going to be a first-round draft pick. Might be a top 10 draft pick this summer. Yes. I like Maryland in this game. You agree?
I'm rolling with the Terps. I like their starting 5. They've got a really good starting 5.
Sets up a 4-5. Double M's here in the round of 32. Moving on to Drake, Missouri. Now, Drake has been a popular Cinderella run for a lot of people, but I think they drew a really, really bad matchup against Missouri. I think Missouri is probably going to kill them.
I think Missouri is diet Florida. That's what I think about Missouri.
Missouri's really, really good. Dennis Gates did an amazing job. Speaking of turnarounds, we talked about Louisville. Missouri did not win an SEC game last year, and now they're a 6th seed in the tournament. What a turnaround from Dennis Gates. 6th man of the year. SEC 6th man of the year, Caleb Grill, is a dog for
one of the best shooters
ever here
in college.
I understand Drake, great story. Ben McCollum comes over from D2, basically brings his whole team and wins 30 games, goes to the dance in his first season. But drawing Missouri here is tough, to be honest. I think this spread is a little disrespectful to Missouri. I understand Drake is a good team, but I think Missouri's going to kill him. Honestly, I think Missouri's going to kill him.
Missouri's got the recipe to get to the Sweet 16. They really do.
Now, if Mark Mitchell's not healthy, maybe it's a different story.
I still don't care. I honestly still don't care.
Yeah, I like Missouri. Mark Mitchell is obviously a tough loss if they were to get past this round. Mm-hmm. But I do like Missouri in this matchup. Drake, like we said, Ben McCollum, probably going to be the Indiana head coach or Iowa head coach next year. Great story they got. They can't hang with Missouri. Sorry. Texas Tech, UNC Wilmington. UNC Wilmington has actually been pretty consistently in the dance recently. But Texas Tech, rightfully favored by 15. I think it's a question.
I love Texas Tech's team. I think they're really good.
Yeah, they had a chance to win the Big 12 this year, and then they were the only team to beat Houston in conference play this season.
This is the best offensive
Houston
team I've ever seen. I think
the best offensive team you've ever seen
from Texas Tech.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not,
I thought you meant ever.
I think better offensively, though, than the team that went to the national championship and played against Virginia. I think they are.
Yeah, this team, they were also a 3 seed. Jared Culver, Moody. I know his last name was Moody. I don't remember his first name.
Matt Mooney.
Matt Moody.
Yeah.
Dog. Absolute dog. But yeah, Texas Tech over UNC Wilmington. UNC Wilmington pretty consistently in the dance, but we're going to go with Texas Tech. Texas Tech is just that good. Probably, I would argue, the best first-round matchup we have.
I think so.
Of the entire tournament. Pretty much a coin flip. Both teams have been pretty unreliable throughout the entire season. Arkansas gets a little run, makes themselves as an large bit in the dance. Calipari versus Self, absolute dogfight here in the round of 64. Kansas, Arkansas. I can't imagine Kansas favored by 5. I don't understand.
Wow.
This is as close to even as I've seen.
You know me. I already said it. I'm calling the Hogs in this one.
I like the Hogs too. Kansas is really wishy-washy, bro. Kansas is one of those teams I wrote down. I do not trust Kansas at all. Like, they could easily, they still have Bill Self on the sideline. They could easily, play perfect and just, win because Bill Self has done it before.
Piece to Alabama's Final Four run last year was Rylan Griffin. Transfers to Kansas, gives them 5 points per game on 30% shooting from 3. Like, make that make sense.
Yeah, steps into Lawrence is terrible. But obviously their X factor is Hunter Dickinson. Yeah. I just think Arkansas is a more athletic team than Kansas, and I think they are better. I think it's just when Arkansas is healthy, I think I definitely like them better over Kansas here.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to foul trouble for Arkansas. If they can stay out of foul trouble, I like them in this game.
The Johnnies, St. John, Big East champions for the first time in a quarter century, has the Garden rocking on the way to the big dance against Omaha. Now, I don't know their mascot. I don't know anything about Omaha here. The Mavericks.
Would not have guessed that.
We're going with St. John's. Rick Pitino all he does is turn programs around. Big story of the tournament. RJ Lewis, and they have another player. Forget his name. RJ Lewis and Kadari Richmond.
And Kadari Richmond, yeah, he's really good. Triple-double machine.
Absolute dogs. When you hear the term, like, they have that dog in them, a team that has the epitome of that is the St. John's Red Storm. Just absolute dog. Now, they can't shoot a three-pointer, but that could lead them to trouble in the tournament. If they're not going to take a lot, they'll probably take between 10 to 15 if they're playing their game right. But if you make them shoot and have to play outside of their game, they could be beatable. But this team plays D. They play hard. RJ Lewis, Kadari Richmond, X factors for this team. This team plays really hard, and there's going to be a hard out in the NCAA tournament when there's there's going to be some games where the final score is going to be in the 50s for both teams, in the 60s for both teams. The epitome of that are the Johnnies. We're obviously going with St. John's here.
Yes.
I like St. John's a lot. On to the East region. A lot. Forget there's 64 teams in this thing. It does not matter who wins this game here. We are going with Duke. Cooper, Flag. I don't know. Knipple and Flag cannot be playing, and Proctor cannot be playing. I think their entire starting 5 cannot be playing, and Duke would win this game by 30. That's how good Duke is.
They're very good.
They're pretty decent. I'll say it. We're going with Duke there. No more analysis. Mississippi State Baylor, also an underrated first round game here.
This is my home team. This is my Memphis.
Your Bulldogs. Yes. I'm gonna let you break this game down. How you feel about it?
So this game really is going to come down to one thing, in my opinion, and it's going to be Josh Hubbard. And that's what it's come down to for the Bulldogs in almost every game this season. If Josh Hubbard is on, there is almost nothing you can do to beat Mississippi State. If he is making his shots, if he is scoring up around 30 points per game, they are most likely going to win that game. If he is not making his shots, then almost no chance. Their secondary scores are some of the most inconsistent in the country. They have kind of tried to solve the three-point shooting problem from last year. They're a better three-point shooting team, but they're still in the bottom half of the country in three-point shooting. They rebound the ball really well. Shout out to Keyshawn Murphy. He's been really, really big this season, especially in the second half. But they were on a little bit of a skid before the SEC tournament. They beat LSU, lost to Missouri, so they've been losing some games lately. I'm not going to pick against my Bulldogs, especially in this matchup. I like VJ Edgecombe, one of the top prospects in this NBA draft. He was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year. Really great player. But I think Baylor is a little unreliable. They're turnover prone. Whoever dominates the glass has a really good chance to win this game. But I think if Josh Hubbard is making his shots, it will be a Bulldog victory. And I think he will in this first round matchup. I don't see the Bulldogs advancing anywhere past that, especially with Duke on the horizon. But yeah. I'm gonna roll with the Dogs in a close one.
Dogs edge out the Bears. Moving on, a sneaky little 5-12. All of the 12 seeds I think in this tournament are really formidable. Oregon. This is also a bowl matchup a couple years ago when Liberty made it out of the group of 5 in football. Liberty versus Oregon. Now, Oregon is one of those teams that I just don't trust. Dude, if you watch their offense, they play like it's 1970. They play super slow. They don't shoot threes at all. I hate watching this team. And they're only favored by 6.5. Liberty is also the antithesis of the way Oregon plays. They play very fast pace, and they haven't lost a game where they've held their opponent under 70 points. And Oregon is a very slow-paced, grinded-out team. So I think I like Liberty a lot here. I'm going to go with Oregon. I don't feel good about it. I do think they have a better overall roster when it comes to just talent. But Liberty, something to keep in mind. They haven't lost a game when they've held their opponent under 70 points. So I think Liberty has a chance to win this game, but I am going to pick Oregon here.
Yeah. I'm cool with that. I will say last time Liberty was in a 12-5 game was against my Bulldogs, and they ran us out of the gym. So
yeah, Liberty got a lot of sports going for them. Liberty is looking like a good school. Arizona, Akron. Now Akron came back in a thriller yesterday against Miami of Ohio, down 18. I do like Akron a lot. Arizona has I think Caleb Love is very similar to Josh Hubbard in a way. Very wishy-washy, very inconsistent. But when he's on, he is very, very, very hard to stop. I don't think Arizona can lose if Caleb Love is on. I do like Arizona in this game. I think Akron has a chance to make this a really close game just because of the way that they play. They're a very gritty, hard-nosed team. Especially like a team like Arizona has a chance to just not be able to hit shots. So I'm going to pick Arizona, but I think Akron can make this a ball game.
Yeah, I like the way Arizona's been playing the last month or so of the season, especially advancing to the Big 12 championship. Shout out to KJ Lewis. KJ Lewis has been playing really good ball. And Jaden Bradley, their other 2 guards besides Caleb Love.
It's going to be a pretty good Pac-12 old Pac-12 matchup going in the second round here. BYU VCU. This is a pretty interesting game. Now, VCU kind of ran the A-10 on the way to the dance. And BYU, I think very rightfully so, is only favored by 2.5. Now, BYU, you could have convinced me one of those underrated teams in the tournament. They've been on a heater the past, month or two. Ran Kansas out of their own gym it was about a month ago. I think BYU has a chance. Like, they score a lot of points. Kevin Young, I think he was an assistant for the Suns last year, I believe. First year comes in and does a really good job with this BYU team in a really good conference like the Big 12. I do think VCU is going to give them a run for their money, but I also think BYU has a chance to just murder them just because BYU has that potential.
Yep.
I personally am going to go with BYU here, but I think VCU is a very, very good opponent.
In my bracket, I would pick VCU. BYU is in the same exact position last year against Duquesne, and Duquesne ended up beating BYU. I think they really benefit from playing at home a lot. They did
And
go into
Duquesne was also much worse.
yeah, they really were. I would pick VCU, but I'm cool with picking BYU.
I mean, you can obviously have your own opinions, man. Like, we don't have to go whatever I say here.
Okay, can we go VCU here then? I really want to.
Of course, this is our bracket, so
yeah, let's go VCU.
Let's go with VCU. I don't hate it. Now, Wisconsin.
I don't trust BYU come tournament time.
No, I understand.
Same as this team right here, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, very unreliable come tournament time. Since Frank the Tank and Sam Decker, they have not really done much in March.
Yeah, I do think they drew a good matchup against Montana, though. I do think they'll take care of work against Montana. I think if they
is Money.
I think if they went on like Akron, I might pick Akron. But
yeah, they had a lucky 13 draw here or 14 draw. But still, I don't understand how they're a 3 when they literally lost to the Big Ten champions today, Michigan, and Michigan is a 5. Yeah. I don't understand that at all. But we're gonna go with Wisconsin here. I have a feeling who you're gonna go with this game right here, but let's move on. St. Mary's Vanderbilt. This is an interesting game. This is a very underrated first round game. St. Mary's kind of ran the table in the regular season in the West Coast Conference, then lost obviously to Gonzaga in that barn burner in the championship. St. Mary's is only favored by 4.5. I kind of like Vanderbilt here. Vanderbilt is very, very battle tested. Beating Tennessee, beating Kentucky. They've got some good wins on their resume. I personally like Vanderbilt here.
Yep. I'm gonna go with Vanderbilt too. I wouldn't have up until they won the big one on the road at Texas A&M. Before that, all their big wins came at home. So that was the big thinking behind it. Like Vanderbilt, they win all these big games, but it's only at home. But they won at Texas A&M, so I think they're capable of winning a big game on a neutral floor. And I like their offense against the defense of St. Mary's in this game. I like Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt, very underrated team as well. I like Vanderbilt. And Jason Edwards. Alabama, Robert Morris.
Alabama.
Probably going Alabama here. Yeah. Favored by 22.5. Yeah.
This is the type of game that Alabama wins 110-60.
Yeah. Going with the Tide. A little interesting second round matchup here.
Very.
Going to be a lot of SEC on SEC games here with 14 teams making the tournament. Finally, on to the last region of the first round, we're going with the Midwest region, the Houston region. The Houston Cougars. I have grown quite fond of watching Houston, because they were, in the same conference as Memphis. We played twice a year, last game of the year every time. I was really hoping we would pull. I was really hoping because I thought we were going to get an 8, Memphis, because I thought they were gonna disrespect us to give us an 8. So I was really hoping we would get Houston's or Auburn's bracket.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
My thinking was, if we pulled Houston's bracket, I trust Penny against Houston because he's got so many games under his belt against them. In a tournament setting, I trust Penny against Houston. I also, Auburn's been really wishy-washy lately. I would have trusted my guys against Auburn, and we've already played this year. It was in November, but I would have trusted us against Auburn. With that being said, I don't really trust SIU Edwardsville.
It's their first time ever making the tournament. Shout out to them, but they are going home.
Shout out. You're one and done. It's the Cougar Bowl here. Could be one to watch out. The Cougar Bowl. We're going with Houston, though.
Yes.
Speaking of same mascots, we got the Bulldog Bowl. Gonzaga, Georgia.
Georgia, man. Tough matchup for Georgia.
Georgia, and all of the bracketology I was seeing before, the actual bracket came out, it had Memphis as the 8-9 against Georgia, and I did not like that either. We would have had a tough draw anyway, pulling Colorado State or Georgia. Georgia's a very, very scrappy team. They play like a bunch of Bulldogs. Gonzaga only favored by 6.5 as the West Coast Conference champions. Georgia's going to be a tough out for Gonzaga. Asa Newell, going to be a high draft pick. Top recruit. I think was he the number 1 recruit this past year, or was he just a 5-star?
I think he was at least in the top 5. He was up there. He was very up there.
Goes to Georgia, but like we said, that 3-guard lineup, Khalif Battle, Nemhard for Gonzaga.
They're good, man.
I'm leaning Gonzaga here. I know you are, but I personally am leaning Gonzaga here. Tough draw for Georgia. Tough draw for Gonzaga too. Georgia could easily win this game too. They killed Florida in the regular season. So, I think this has the potential to be a close game, but with the way Gonzaga has played under Mark Few, also has the potential for Gonzaga to murder them. So, going with Gonzaga here, I like that a lot. Clemson, McNeese, Will Wade back in action in the tourney, coming off a murder piece against Gonzaga last year. Will Wade is making McNeese a powerhouse in their conference. I forget what conference they play in. Southland Conference. McNeese on top as long as Will Wade's there. I think he's getting a job, though.
Probably.
So the Cowboys probably going to miss him this offseason. But tough draw again for McNeese. Clemson is a really, really good basketball team. Coming off an Elite Eight appearance last year.
No P.J. Hall this time around, though.
No P.J. Hall. P.J. Hall, he flipped off Memphis on the way out when we beat them. Not a lot of people like losing against Memphis, but, we got Clemson's number. We're two games in a row against those boys. But I do like Clemson here. McNeese, a good story, back-to-back tournament appearances as a 12. Will Wade is obviously a good coach. But I just think Clemson is just way better.
I like Clemson, too. I like Chase Hunter. I like Ian Shefflin. I don't think McNeese has the guard superpowers that they did last year. I forget the guard's name that scored like 20 points per game. They don't have a guy that can go out and get it.
I can't recall either. We really like Clemson, but a team that I really do not like is the Purdue Boilermakers. Not any just like emotional. I don't honestly care for Purdue, but I just don't trust them at all right now. I do not like the way Purdue is playing basketball right now. And we're looking at a matchup against High Point. High Point is at a high point right now. Not a great joke, but I enjoy it myself. High Point plays very, very fast basketball. Plays very, very up and down the court. It's really much all I know about them, though. But I know they're on a heater. First tournament appearance for these High Point Panthers. I don't like the way Purdue's playing. I'm not gonna pick against Purdue. Just because I think talent-wise, they have a first-team All-American in Braden Smith, who's obviously a really good player. I just think down the line, I think Purdue, I don't know if they make it past the first weekend. I don't know if they beat Clemson.
Here's the thing, though. I feel like we have to pick one of these lower games. And I feel like if we're going to pick one of these lower games, I'm shaky on Purdue, too. I feel like it's got to be this one.
Do you want to go High Point here?
I want to go with the High Point Panthers.
I don't hate it. I was leaning more towards High Point going into picking this game just because I don't like Purdue right now. I just don't think they're going to win more than one game in the tournament. I just really don't. And I think High Point is a good team to be able to beat Purdue here. Flashback to when North Texas beat them in the first round a couple of years ago. Now I forgot they were in the tournament here. I kind of like Texas if they beat Xavier here. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I really don't like Illinois. Like, I really liked Illinois the first month or two of the season, but they just fell off a cliff.
If Texas wins against Xavier in the play-in, I would pick Texas against Illinois.
I would pick Texas, too. I'd probably pick Illinois against Xavier, but I would pick Texas over Illinois.
I really like Trey Johnson, bro. Trey Johnson is a baller.
Yeah,
very, very good. Tremont Marks is also a really good player. I hate that we can't preview this, but we're going with Texas if Texas wins. We're not going with Xavier. We're going with Texas.
I like it.
This is who our pick is right here. Love that. Love that pick. Kentucky, Troy. Kentucky has been riddled with injuries since the beginning of January, since conference play, really. Troy wins the Sun Belt, I think, for the first time ever in basketball, if I'm not mistaken. That could be totally wrong, but They also have the Sun Belt Player of the Year. I think Connor Way is the Sun Belt Player of the Year this year. Kentucky's just way more talented, bro. Otega Oweh, Jackson Robinson, Williams, I forget his first name, and Amari Williams, Lamont Butler was in the national championship a couple years ago against UConn with San Diego State. Mark Pope doing a really, really good job with this team with all the injuries he's had to battle through. Completely new roster, completely new program, although it is his alma mater that he's used to. Mark Pope has done a really, really good job with this Kentucky team. When Kentucky's on, they are one of the most prolific offenses in the entire country. Kentucky can score. And I think they're probably like how we said Alabama was going to beat Robert Morris earlier. This is probably going to be a 110-60 game. I think Kentucky kills Troy here.
I don't think Kentucky loses a 3-14 game 2 years in a row. They lost to Oakland last year. I don't see it happening this year. I
like Kentucky here. Sets up an interesting second round matchup with Texas. A lot of SEC on SEC games here. I don't know. I really like Texas. I think they showed a lot of heart in that SEC tournament. UCLA, Utah State.
I don't like UCLA.
I don't either. Fade the Big Ten come March. That's all we have to say. Fade the Big Ten come March. UCLA not looking great. Also, ride the Mountain West when it comes March, except when it's against Memphis. Do not pick against Memphis, please. UCLA only favored by 4.5 against a double-digit seed. Utah State made the tournament. I think this is their third year row in the tournament. Ian Martinez, playing really well for Utah State right now. Win against Iowa. Iowa was really bad this year, but they have a win against St. Mary's this year. And it was a really, really good conference, 4-bid league in the Mountain West. As I continue to say, are we both feeling Utah State here?
I'm feeling Utah State. I don't trust UCLA one bit this year.
Love the Utah State pick. Kind of forgot UCLA was even in the tournament. Doesn't really feel like a tournament team. Tennessee, Wofford. Tennessee had a chance to play, they did play for a 1 seed today against Florida. I think Tennessee would have got a 1 seed if they beat Florida today. Tennessee is a really, really good team. I have them as, I think they're the most disrespected team in the country as far as I think they have a chance to go really, really far in the tournament, man. I love Chaz Lanier. I love Sakai Ziegler. I love Igor Milicic. Is that his last name?
Yep.
Javon Meshack. He is a insane person. If you watch Javon Meshack play possession on defense, man, he's insane. He's probably going to be the defensive player of the year in the entire country. Javon Meshack is a insane person on defense. I really like Tennessee. I think they're one of the more complete teams in the country. They just, couldn't pull it off against Florida today. I like Tennessee against Wofford. I think Wofford gets murdered. I think they get murdered here.
I'm rolling with the Vols too. I think they've got the formula just like last year to make a deep run.
Yeah. No Dalton Connect this year, but Chaz Lanier has the chops to bring this Tennessee team far. Moving on to the round of 32, finally moving on to the round of 32. Very meaty first round, as always, in the March Madness tournament. Auburn, Louisville. One of my underrated picks is Louisville. It just depends on what kind of Auburn team are we going to see in the tournament. Is it going to be the team that just dominated everybody? 16 quad one wins in the regular season, outright SEC conference champions in the regular season. Janai Broom, obviously, rightfully player of the year. I think it should be Cooper Flagg, but could go to Janai Broom. A lot of X factors. Chad Baker-Desira, good player when he's not ejected. Denver Jones is a good defensive point guard that they have for him. Todd Pettiford, when he's on, this team is hard to beat. I don't know. Chucky Hepburn is a really, really good player. Really good point guard for them. I don't know if they have enough talent to keep up with Auburn. We talked a lot of bad about Auburn in this episode, but Auburn is still obviously the number one overall seed for a reason. They are a really, really, really good basketball team. And I think statistically in the KenPom era, they are the most efficient offense of all time. So I'm going to go Auburn here, but I do think Louisville can make it a game. They also could get murdered, but I think they can make it a game here. I think this is one of the better 8 seeds that Auburn could have pulled here. But I am going to go Auburn.
Yeah, I'm going to go Auburn as well. I'm not quite as high on Louisville as you are. I feel like I haven't watched them as much as you have this year, though. I've been watching a little more of them lately. But I do think that Auburn, stylistically and matchup-wise, I think they match up very well against Louisville. I think they match up well against Terrence Edwards and Chucky Hepburn.
Yeah, and Auburn is just way more talent. Just way more talent.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think Louisville kind of got shafted. They got an 8 seed. They were the 2 seed in the ACC tournament, and they were the runner up. And you get an 8 seed for that
they should have been switched to Illinois or UCLA, in my opinion.
I think they at least a 6. But an 8 seed is kind of disrespectful. But we're going with Auburn. Auburn goes to a Sweet 16. UC San Diego, Texas A&M. This is also interesting. I think Texas A&M is they're pretty comparable to Michigan. I don't think it's a 1-for-1, but I think they're pretty comparable to Michigan. A&M has a tendency to just not play well at all. They just have a tendency to just come out flat sometimes. But A&M is also really, really talented. I like Buzz Williams as a head coach. Was really good at Marquette. Also really good at A&M. UC San Diego. I just think they're a good basketball team. I just don't think they're just Cinderella that's won their bad conference. The West, the Big West is not a bad conference. They had a first. I think they were a first 4 out in UC Irvine. That was a part of their conference. Yeah. Not a bad conference in the Big West. I think UC San Diego is an actually good basketball team, but I do think personally that A&M is better. It also just depends on what kind of A&M team we're going to get. Are they going to fall flat? Are they just not going to hit shots? Who knows? But I like Wade Taylor. UC San Diego has a very, very good defense, won 30 games for a reason. But I personally am going to go with A&M here.
I am too. Like I said, I really like them. I think this is the game that Solomon Washington and Anderson Garcia and Henry Coleman are going to really, really step up for Texas A&M. They're going to need those guys to play well in this game if they're going to win, because UC San Diego is going to bring it. They're going to bring everything they have.
Yeah, they have like A&M. I don't know, the potential that this game could go, like A&M could come out flat like we've seen them come out, and UC San Diego could just kill them. Or A&M could come out and play to the level of how talented they are and just kill UC. This game could really just go either way if this is the game we see in the round of 32.
They have to show how dominant they are.
Yeah. A&M is really good. I like A&M better than UC San Diego, but this game could be really, really close. I really like that matchup if we do pull that. Another interesting matchup, Iowa State and Ole Miss. I think these teams are pretty comparable.
Yeah.
On paper.
Tough one for Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss. Iowa State. When this Iowa State team is healthy, very, very good. I do like Iowa State in this matchup. Sean Padula, crazy game winner against Arkansas in the SEC tournament. Jamin Brakefield, also a really good player. I do like Iowa State, though. Iowa State just needs to be healthy. When they are healthy, though, Iowa State's a really, really good basketball team.
Yeah, I feel like Ole Miss is diet Iowa State.
Yeah, they are pretty comparable. But I do like Iowa State in this matchup. We say fade the Big Ten, but I don't like fading Tom Izzo.
No,
Michigan
he's the one
State,
guy.
One guy you stick with in the Big Ten. Tom Izzo rarely loses in March. Well, the first couple rounds, he tends to go far, but he doesn't really win it. New Mexico, obviously a really good team, part of that powerhouse Mountain West that I've kept talking about this entire episode. But Michigan State has been really, really good. Jace Richardson has the chops to just score 40 on anybody. He's a really good player. I like Michigan State in this matchup. New Mexico State's no slouch, but I do like Michigan State here. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm rolling with the Spartans. I think they're a really, really good team, and I think they're suited for a deep run.
Sets up a very interesting Sweet 16 matchup between those two teams. Florida, UConn.
Woo! Woo!
Ball game. Now, Florida, like we said, we both think that Florida is the team to beat in the entire field. But like I said, UConn is my most underrated team in the entire country. I think UConn has a chance if they get out of the first round against Oklahoma to beat Florida. I think they are one of the teams, outside of these top high rated teams. Florida could lose here. This could be one of the surprises of the tournament. We could see Florida go out here. I'm not going to pick UConn, but I think it is a very, very high possibility that UConn can win this game. I think UConn is very disrespected. I think UConn is very slept on. I think UConn has a chance to make a very, very far run in this tournament. Don't be surprised if UConn makes it to the Elite Eight Final Four because they've done it before. They are the reigning two-time champions for a reason.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I think the idea of UConn versus UConn in reality, I think this is the matchup where it will really show because the reality of Florida is that they are elite. Yeah. And UConn has to be on their P's and Q's to even give Florida a game, despite their championship pedigree. So I'm going to go with the Gators too, but I do think that this will be a good game.
These are the last two programs to go back-to-back in national title wins.
Wow.
Very high pedigree Blue Bloods here. We're going Florida. Florida is just a perfect team in every essence of the word perfect. Maryland, Memphis. The Tigers versus the Terrapins. Not sure what a Terrapin is, but we'll let it slide. PJ Haggerty. I think PJ Haggerty has to be on his A game every single game if we want to go far in this tournament.
I agree.
Maryland. I do not know much about Maryland. I just know that they I think they were a 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. So they said they are not a bad ball club. Not a bad ball club. I'll say it. Very good freshman, Derek Queen.
I think in this game, I don't know if you're feeling the same way. This is a matchup that I really like Memphis in. I really like Memphis in this matchup, and that's not even coming from a homer perspective. I think that Memphis has what it takes to offset Derek Queen with Dane Danger and Musa Cisse and Nicholas Jourdain. I think they have
big guys, man.
Yeah,
we sometimes we play all three of them at the same time.
Crazy. I'm rolling with Memphis in this one. I don't know about you.
Let's go. Not gonna let you change your mind. We're going Memphis. I hate this, by the way. We're going Memphis though.
This will be the end after this.
But like if this is it though, we make it to the second week into the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2009. W year for the M. I probably should put that W up again, but we're gonna go with the Tigers to make it to the second weekend. This is a really good game here. Texas Tech, Missouri, old Big 12 foes. Love this matchup, by the way. Toppin versus Mark Mitchell, Caleb Grill versus Darian Williams. This would be a ball game. Oh my goodness.
I know I said Missouri is Diet Florida, but I'm telling you, I really, really like Texas Tech. I love JT Toppin. I love Elijah Hawkins. And when they are clicking offensively, they are impossible to beat.
Texas Tech. I like Texas Tech too. I think Missouri has. I would stack up Missouri against a lot of teams. Missouri is a really, really good team. But Texas Tech, tough draw here in the second round. But Texas Tech, I think, moves on.
This would be the game where Mark Mitchell has to play.
Yeah, Mark Mitchell's got to show up. But going with Texas Tech here, even with Mark Mitchell. Coaching masterclass here we see in the second round. Pitino, Calipari.
Man, I love St. John's, but
really good team here.
I said it before. I'm calling the Hogs. I think they get hot.
You like the Hogs in this matchup against St. John's?
I like the Hogs. I like Arkansas.
John Calipari shuts everybody up. Moves on to the Sweet 16 in his first year at Fayetteville. St. John's, obviously one of the best teams in America. They're a 2 seed for a reason. It's just, I don't. They have a flaw, and it's shooting, and it's a really big flaw in today's game. It's just like, it's not really something you could just put aside. Their shooting is probably what's going to be their downfall in the tournament.
Great.
It looks like the Johnnies on top of basketball, but not in the round of 32 against Calipari's Razorbacks. We're going with the Razorbacks. Duke, Mississippi State, going with Duke here. If Cooper Flag is not healthy, we're going with Duke just because they're so talented, man. Duke is a complete team.
My dog Duke chance in that one.
Yeah,
don't have a chance.
Absolutely not. Very interesting. Old Pac-12. It's weird to say old Pac-12, but old Pac-12 isn't even a conference in college basketball anymore. Like they just disintegrated. Like Oregon and Washington State are in the West Coast Conference now. They're just not a Pac-12. They're just not at all a conference anymore. But two old foes in the conference play against each other in the round of 32 here. I don't think, to me, this isn't a question of going with Arizona just because I just hate Oregon. I don't like the way Oregon plays at all, and I don't think it's going to be very successful in March. They play similar to Houston, but Houston shoots threes, and they're one of the most consistent three-point shooting teams in the entire country. Oregon is like not at all.
Jackson Shellstead has to have a game for them to hang.
I don't like Oregon. I kind of didn't like them against Liberty. It was hard for me to pick them against.
Go back and change that if you want to.
No, I think we'll stay here. I think Arizona moves on anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
But Arizona against Oregon, as long as you agree.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Sets up an interesting Duke-Arizona matchup here in the Sweet 16. VCU, Wisconsin. It's fade the Big Ten here, but VCU, I don't know. Max Shulga has been on one lately.
I like VCU here, man. I know
VCU.
John Tonje's been on a tear, but I think VCU has the tools to shut that down.
VCU
made some deep runs here in the not too distant past. They're capable.
Looking like the VCU of 2011, I believe, with Shaka Smart, making it to the Sweet 16. Moves past the Badgers. SEC slugfest here in the round of 32. We got the Commodores versus the Crimson Tide. The outcome of this game in football.
That's true.
Was a Vandy dub. Diego Pavia, legendary performance. Jason Edwards, obviously a really, really good player. Doesn't really do much other than score. I didn't know he averaged 1 assist a game as a point guard. But Vanderbilt is not a slouch.
No, not at all.
Grant Nelson not looking very healthy in that Florida game yesterday. Had to sit out, and then Florida just ran away with the entire game. Mark Sears scored 9 points against Florida yesterday. When Mark Sears is on, it's very hard to beat Alabama. Same thing with Grant Nelson. Grant Nelson is a spark plug. He plays so hard. I really like Grant Nelson. He was part of the main reason why they made it to the Final Four last season. Yeah. I'm going to go with Alabama here just because Alabama is very inconsistent. Their defense is what scares me. When they play another great offense down the road, it's going to be hard for me to pick them. Alabama's obviously a very, very good team. They were ranked as high as number 2 in the country this season. Very talented team. I like Alabama in this matchup. I don't think Vanderbilt has enough talent to beat Alabama. But it could be a very interesting game with, same conference.
Yeah, I think Alabama runs away with this one. I think this is the type of game, especially if they have the momentum carried over from their first game where they win by 30 or 40. I think Alabama can use that into their second game and really run the table against Vanderbilt.
Alabama moves on to the Sweet 16 in our bracket to play VCU. Moving on to the Midwest round of 32. We got the Houston Cougars and Kelvin Sampson against the Gonzaga Bulldogs and Mark Few. Coaching masterclass here, by the way. Gonna love that matchup. Like you said, Gonzaga's scary, but are you confident against them, or are you confident in them against this formidable 1-seed Houston Cougar squad who ran away with the Big 12 this year?
I don't know if I'm confident, but I'm not confident in them winning, but I'm confident that this will be a great close game. And I think if Gonzaga can keep it close, I think they can make the shots down the stretch. I think that they've got the guys. I think they have that edge over Houston. I know Milo Suzon and LJ Cryer have hit some big shots in their career, Emmanuel Sharp, but so has Caleb Battle, so has Ryan Nimhart, so has Nolan Hickman. Graham Ike has hit some big shots. These guys have played in the tournament before. They've made deep runs in the tournament before. I like Mark Few offensively, even against the defensive mastermind in Kelvin Sampson. I think that Houston, although this is the best offensive year they've had in a pretty long time, I think they're still due for a really bad offensive game. And I think if it is this game, I think Gonzaga wins it. I'm rolling with Gonzaga.
I don't hate it. Houston this year, one of the top 5 3-point shooting team when it comes to efficiency in the entire country. But when Houston is not hitting their threes, they are going to struggle. Very slow paced team. The opposite is the case with Gonzaga. Very fast paced, very high scoring team. Both teams shoot the three ball at a very high clip. But I don't hate the Gonzaga pick. I'm okay with the roll with the Gonzaga here. West Coast Conference champions again are the Bulldogs, and they're going to be the first 1 seed out of here. Goodbye, Houston. We're going with Gonzaga. Moving on, Clemson and High Point. Clemson is a very good team. I personally, first glance, I think Clemson kills them.
Yeah, I also don't know enough about High Point at this point to be confident in them winning this game. I'm going with Clemson.
Yeah, they look like a high school team with this logo. High Point obviously good enough to beat Purdue. That's not saying much, but we're going to go with the Clemson Tigers, setting up a very interesting Sweet 16 matchup here. Right there. Kentucky against Texas is who we're going with right here. Kentucky, like I said earlier, if they're healthy, they're very hard out. They could score with anybody in the entire country. First glance, I like Texas. I think Texas has the chops to be one of the lower seeds to go a little bit far. But if it's against Kentucky, it's going to be really hard. I like Kentucky a lot.
Yeah, I like Kentucky in this matchup too. I think the addition of Kendall Weaver back to Texas is an interesting little caveat. I think he could be
hurt his ankle, I believe, against Tennessee.
Oh, did he really?
Had to limp to make free throws.
That's too bad.
But
I'll go.
Yeah, like you said, Trey Johnson is a bucket. I think he led the SEC in scoring this season as a true freshman. Yeah. Tremont Mark at Weaver, like you said, if he's healthy, I just don't think they're talented enough to play up to Kentucky's level.
Yeah, I agree.
Another SEC team here against the Mountain West foe, Utah State against Tennessee. I think Tennessee kills it here. Tennessee is a very, very good roster.
I like Tennessee in this one too.
You know what this sets up?
Ooh.
Kentucky, Tennessee. We'll get to that later. A lot of SEC on SEC here. SEC country in full effect here in the NCAA tournament. The first matchup, we're going with Auburn, Texas A&M. The last time these teams played, A&M beat Auburn.
Yes. I don't think that was a fluke. I think Texas A&M wins this game.
Auburn, the way we spoke, Auburn had to go at some point. I don't hate it. A&M beat them last time on their own home floor. I like A&M in this matchup, man. I just think they match up well with Auburn. And we saw that last time that they played. A&M to the Elite Eight.
Big time.
Really like it. Now, this is where it gets tough. Michigan State, Iowa State. Big 10, Big 12.
This is a tough one.
Is it fade the Big 10 and Mark Izzo? Or is it ride the Big 10 and Mark Izzo? Pause.
Oh, man. You know, I know Iowa State's guys have been hurt for some of the year. I know Michigan State has really played some good ball over the past 2 months or so. But I like Iowa State in this one. I'm not going to lie. I like Curtis Jones and Keyshawn Gilbert.
I don't hate it. When their two guards are healthy, Iowa State is hard to beat. They play very hard and they play very well. Sets up an interesting old Big 12 matchup in the Elite Eight. Oh boy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The Gators move on here. I just don't think. Okay, look, I do trust us against really good teams. We play. Memphis is the epitome of play up to our competition and play down. Memphis is going to show up for this game. We may not win, but we're going to show up and play. We may get murdered, but we're going to show up and play. That being said, Florida wins this game. We just not Florida, most complete, most deep, best team in the nation. I just don't think we have the chops to, do anything against Florida. Do I want Memphis to win? Obviously, but I don't think it's going to happen. Moving on to this next matchup. What is happening? Go back, please. There we go. Texas Tech against Arkansas.
It's a good game.
Should be a fun one. Arkansas going to the Sweet 16. Calipari has struggled to do that recently with Kentucky. Can't really beat 14 seeds, but he's got it going here in Arkansas, and they're showing up in the Sweet 16 against Texas Tech. You really like both of these teams.
Yeah, I think this is the game though where no Aduthiero is really going to come back to hurt them. I'm going with Texas Tech in this one.
Texas Tech is really, really good. Really good ball club over there in Lubbock. Sets up a really good Elite Eight here. Every matchup pretty much is going to be a good game. That's what March is all about. Duke, Arizona, I feel like they've played each other recently in the tournament. Just feels like a game that I've seen before. But Arizona, first glance, just don't think that they're going to be able to match up with Duke. I think Duke inside is going to murder Arizona.
I think Arizona is running into Duke at a very bad time because Cooper Flagg, in theory, would be pretty healthy going into this matchup.
I think for sure, but by the second weekend, give him a week and a half, I think he'll be pretty healthy for the Sweet 16.
I like Arizona, but not in this matchup. I like Duke.
Not against Duke. Give me the mighty Blue Devils. VCU, Alabama.
This is another game I can see Alabama winning by 30.
Yeah, Alabama. I was about to say, I think Alabama runs away. Pretty cupcake slate that we've given Alabama to the Elite Eight. Could easily match up with BYU here.
Even in that matchup, they might win by 30.
Alabama cupcake Elite Eight run is what we've got. Sets up Duke and Alabama. You could say the best college basketball program of all time against the greatest college football program of all time. But we see Alabama showing up in basketball. Love the matchup. Gonzaga, Clemson in the Sweet 16. This would make Gonzaga's like X amount of straight Sweet 16s. Doing it in March, but Mark Few cannot get the ring. Do we see Gonzaga moving on to the Elite Eight, or do we see Clemson going to back-to-back Elite Eight appearances here?
I like Gonzaga in this one, man. I think this is a great matchup for them. I like the Bulldogs.
Gonzaga goes back to the Elite Eight for the first time since I don't know. I don't remember. But here we go.
Oh boy.
Tennessee has not beat Kentucky this year. Fun fact. Tennessee is 0-2 against Kentucky this year. Kentucky, like we said, very injured for most of the year, but they've had Tennessee's number. Colin Rea, Lamont Butler, I forget the Williams guy's first name all the time. Amari Williams, Adafe Owe. This team, when fully healthy, this team is loaded. But it's really, really hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. Memphis did it against UAB, by the way. It's really hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year.
I don't think Kentucky can do it, especially not against this Tennessee team.
Against a Rick Barnes-led Tennessee team, very adjustment-heavy Rick Barnes is. These teams match up pretty well, but I do like Tennessee to finally pull it out against the Wildcats this year. Tennessee finally brings it home when it matters most against the Wildcats. Moving on to the Elite Eight.
Mm.
We are down to 8 in the field. A&M, Iowa State. You could say these teams are pretty much the exact same team, just in different conferences.
Yeah.
Old Big 12 matchup here against each other. First thought. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I think Texas A&M at some point is due for an off night, and I think Iowa State is the wrong team to have an off night against because they can just make your off night and amplify it by 5. I'm rolling with the Cyclones.
Very hard to have an off night against this Iowa State team. I was about to say first thought, gut feeling, I would go with Iowa State here.
To the final.
Like Iowa State in this matchup. Final 4 run for the Cyclones.
Didn't see that coming.
Give it up. Florida, Texas Tech. Really, really good matchup here.
This might be my favorite one that we've had so far.
Florida, Texas Tech. JT Toppin. Walter Clayton. 2 star-studded ballers. Face off of the Elite Eight, the regional final.
I can't go against Florida, though.
Florida is as a complete team as it comes. JT Toppin, Darian Williams. Nothing on Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin. All of the guys.
They're too deep. They're too
Condon,
deep.
Will Richard. All the guys that Florida has. Too much for the Red Raiders. Good run to the Elite Eight, but we're going with Florida. Sets up a Final Four matchup between Iowa State and Florida. Already loving it. Down to the bottom 2 regional finals. Duke versus Alabama. 2 premier programs. Alabama in football, Duke in basketball. But it's basketball, baby. It's March. And who shows up in March? The Blue Devils. John Shire. I believe John Shire goes to his first Final Four as a head coach.
This is the type of game, it's completely reliant on Alabama's 3-point shooting to me.
If Alabama can't score in this game, they are not going to win, especially if Cooper Flagg's healthy.
And with Duke's positional size, with their positional length, I think it's very hard to see Alabama hitting 15-plus threes in this game.
Yeah. Alabama's going to have to rely on their shooting, and I think Duke is just way more athletic also against Alabama. Alabama's a good basketball team, not the most athletic team. We're going to go with the Blue Devils. Back to the Final Four, as we've been accustomed to in our lifetimes. Gonzaga, Tennessee. Gonzaga's in the Elite Eight. Tennessee back-to-back Elite Eight appearances, but never has made the Final Four. Are we riding with the Gonzaga Bulldogs? Are we going to keep the not really Cinderella, but low-seed Gonzaga train rolling? Mark Few and the Bulldogs. Do they go back to the Final Four again for the first time since 2021? Or do the Vols make their first ever Final Four in program history?
I think this is the year, man. I think this is the year the Vols finally do it.
The Tennessee Vols. Zakai Ziegler.
This is where it's going to end for the Zags for me. I think Tennessee has the positional defenders to really give Gonzaga a lot of problems.
Tennessee's gonna need to score, but I think Tennessee is going to hound Gonzaga, and they're gonna punch them in the face in this game. I agree. Tennessee goes to their first ever Final Four in program history in our H&H bracket. Sets up a very, very, very good Final Four. 2 SEC teams left standing. The final 2 that were left in the SEC tournament, very fitting.
Wow.
But we got a very interesting Final Four setup. First one, Florida, Iowa State.
This is a bad matchup for the Cyclones.
I know.
Bad matchup.
First gut, I think it's Florida. I really do.
Give me the Gators, man.
Walter Clayton has been on one. Curtis Jones, Keshawn Gilbert cannot hang with the guards that Florida's got. We said we got a good couple of guards that Iowa State has. Florida has like 5. So we're going to go
4 bigs.
Florida has everything. We're going to go with Florida to make their first national championship appearance since 2008, I
Wow.
believe. 2009. Going
Shout
with the Gators.
Chomping, baby.
Elite juggernaut matchup here in the next Final Four. The Duke Blue Devils, as complete a team as they come, against another very, very complete team in the Tennessee Volunteers. I hate to see them go this far, but I think Tennessee is a really, really good team, and I think possibly the best team that can match up with Duke.
Really?
If you leave it up to me, I like Tennessee in this matchup. If you leave it up to me, I like Tennessee.
Wow.
As much as I hate saying it, I like Tennessee in this matchup.
Tennessee has the experience. Tennessee has the positional defenders, like we said. But I think this is a game where Duke's rebounding, their shot blocking, and their interior presence, drawing fouls, I think they get Tennessee in foul trouble. I think if Tennessee is not knocking down their shots, I think it spells doomsday. And I think Duke just has the word I keep going back to is positional defense. They have positional defenders. Their shooting guard is Con Knipple. He's 6'7". Their point guard is Tyrese Proctor. He's 6'6". Think about 6'6" Tyrese Proctor versus 5'9" Zakai Ziegler. Zakai Ziegler is a great player. He gets his shots off regardless. But I just think Duke's size is going to be too much for Tennessee in this game. I'm going to disagree with you on this one.
I believe if we go back, let's look at Duke's path here. Let's go all the way back, all the way to the beginning. In the beginning, Duke. Who do they play? Let's say they play American. Can't imagine American is going to be a good defensive team against Duke. On to the round of 32. Mississippi State. They can be good. They can be good defensively. Not this time.
No.
Let's say no against Mississippi State. Kentucky, not really. Can be, but not really. They've not shown the entire year that they can hang defensively. Or not, no, that's going against Tennessee. We're talking about Duke. Arizona, no. Not a good defensive team. Alabama, absolutely not. Not a good defensive team. Finally, we get to the Final Four. This is the first really good defensive team that Duke has played the entire tournament up in our tournament here. I think that punches Duke right in the face. Personally. That's why I like Tennessee in this matchup. The path that Duke has taken to this matchup, haven't really seen a good defensive team. You could pull straws and say maybe Mississippi State, but that's it.
Yep.
We're going to see the first really good defensive team. The best defense in the SEC was Tennessee this year. That's why I like Tennessee, man. I think Duke's better, but I think Tennessee would pull this out if this happened, and especially if Duke takes that same route that we predict.
Okay. I'll say you convinced me. I'm thinking back to the Final Four teams that have had success in the past, and especially thinking back to last year's Alabama team, thinking back to teams in the past. The defense has to be on point, and we know Tennessee's defense is on point. So I agree with you on that. So,
and like we've seen, Tennessee up to this point is battle tested, man. They would have beaten Gonzaga, who's obviously a really good team. They would have beaten Kentucky, who they haven't beaten at all this year. Would have beaten in this scenario. We go back to the round. We go back to the round of 32. They would beat Utah State. I mean, they would probably kill them, but they would have a really, really good battle-tested path to the Final Four in this scenario. Whereas Duke, maybe not so much. You know, Arizona's obviously a very good team. Alabama, obviously a very good team, but I think Tennessee pulls it off here. If it matches up the way that we have it, very slim chance that happens. But if it matches up the way that we have it, I like Tennessee in this scenario. I just think Duke gets shell shocked. They'll come prepared. John Shirer's a good coach. They have the athletes, but I think they get shell shocked by Tennessee's defensive prowess this season. Every guy on that Tennessee team, besides I think Igor Milicic, he's kind of so-so, but every guy on that Tennessee team hound on the defensive end. Absolute hound.
Yeah.
Especially freaking Javon Meshack, man. He's an insane person.
Yeah.
And I think he would be the guy on Cooper Flag. So if it's not Chaz Lanier, I like Tennessee in this matchup, man. I really do.
I'm not against it.
And if I'm taking Tennessee, I tell the truth. Because I hate Tennessee.
That's very true. Yeah.
And it leaves us with the final two, an SEC championship rematch in San Antonio.
It'll be the fourth time these teams have played this year.
Number 4. I think Florida would lead the series 2-1 going in here.
Mm-hmm.
Florida, the Gators, all the way from number 1 down to the national championship against Tennessee. I think if this were to happen in real life, this would be a ball game. The chippiness that they played with today. If this is for the natty chip in San Antonio, oh boy. This is a coin flip now. To me, this is a coin flip.
Yeah. The way this game would go, I unfortunately think this would be a game that would be like a 15-point win for whichever team wins this game.
Yeah. Because they've seen each other so much. This would be, like you said, game number 4 between these two teams. Both teams pretty battle tested up to this point. Tennessee more so than Florida in this bracket that we have, but I don't know who to pick. I really don't.
Yeah.
I would lean Florida just because Florida's better, but I had Tennessee beating Duke. So I really don't know who to go here.
I think the difference for me is thinking about Florida matching up against the teams that they've matched up against. And I think Florida breezes through more teams than Tennessee does in their path to the championship. I think that lets them catch their wind more. They are already a deeper team. They're far more capable in the offensive end. And as good as Tennessee is defensively, Florida defensive rebounds better than almost anyone in the country.
They're also the best offensive rebounding team in the country, too.
Yeah, and they don't turn the ball over. They just don't turn the ball over. With all that being said, I like Florida, man. I think Florida is the best suited team to win the national championship.
I like it, man. I like everybody on their team. Suddenly, Walter Clayton's not a junior anymore, but yeah. Florida in this matchup, I like them. Florida would win the series 3-1, and then ultimately Florida would be crowned your national champions, the Gators. First one since 2009. I like this bracket, man.
That was really fun March Madness, man.
A lot of good games, a lot of crazy outcomes, obviously. But that is our bracket on the H&H Sports Podcast. First podcast episode in 15 months. I've missed you guys. I've missed you so much. And I think me and Jackson, when we did this 2 years ago, we had Houston. I think we had Houston beating Alabama in the national championship. That obviously didn't happen. That was a really weird year in March Madness. It was UConn, the 4-seed UConn beating the 5-seed San Diego State in the national championship. And the Final Four was UConn, Miami. Just absurd. And I think the other one was San Diego State, Florida Atlantic.
Yeah,
that was crazy. I think San Diego State is the one who beat Houston. So, could go horribly wrong. Again, nobody really has a perfect bracket ever. So, but I do like the Florida pick. I think Florida is in recent history one of the besides UConn last year, one of the safest national championship picks you can have. Yeah. Just because they just like you said, they're a perfect basketball team. They just don't make mistakes.
I can't wrap my mind around a team beating them. I can't wrap my mind around that.
I think Duke is the only team.
That's partially why I wanted to see Duke beat Tennessee and go to the national championship. for it to be like a really, really, really.
That would be probably the best national championship that we've seen in a very long time.
I agree.
A very long time. I was like, it would have been, I think it would have been when the last time Kansas won it. I think if Duke beat Carolina in that Final Four, Coach K's last game, if it was Carolina or if it was Kansas Duke in that game, I think that would have been one of the best national championships we've seen. But I think this has the chops. If it is Florida Duke, I think that has Villanova, North Carolina type of potential. Just an absolute instant classic in San Antonio.
Yes.
But yeah, that's our bracket. 2-hour pod, 60-minute or 120 minutes of just raw hoop talk. In one of the most unpredictable tournaments you will ever see in March Madness. That is our predictions, and that is also going to wrap up this episode. Elijah, I really appreciate you joining me for this, brother. 2 hours long of just straight hoops, glazing Florida, hating on the Big Ten, just loving
hating
it.
Auburn,
hating Auburn, University of Always Bad, UAB.
Love it, man.
Love talking hoops with you. That is gonna wrap this. That is gonna wrap this episode up. We appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate you guys listening. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. We are wherever you guys get your podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on your post notifications so you guys never miss when we upload a podcast episode. Obviously, you are welcome to join the podcast whenever you want, brother. Hopefully, we can cover the first weekend of March Madness whenever we can. Hopefully we can do that. Hopefully it works out that way. I would like for that to happen. I am going for those of you that are gonna that are still here for football talk, I will cover free agency. I will cover the draft. I will do mock drafts. I will that will come when it comes, sooner rather than later. Been really focused on hoop talk, hoop ball, as you guys have noticed. Because Memphis is going far, and I'm really invested in it. So, again, we appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate you guys listening. I will see you. Hopefully, I'm not making any promises, but hopefully next week, we'll be back for another podcast. See y'all.